We're going to look at a very good pattern to use when we're talking about when something happened in the past. I think it must have been about 10 years ago. It must have been about 10 years ago. So I think it must have been is the past modal structure, very good language structure. And then where however long it is, about, so we're thinking, we're not sure, so we don't want to use, we want to make it clear that we're thinking about 10 years ago. So this is a part one question. When did you start using social media? Well, actually, I think it must have been about 10 years ago. You say it. Make sure every word is clear. Now say it again. I think it must have been about 10 years ago. If you made any mistake, say it again. Make it come easily and naturally. Here we are again. I think it must have been about 10 years ago. Again. Now we're going to do a drill with different times. So notice when I say the uh, amount of time, 10 years, 6 months, 3 weeks, I always use about. But with some of these which are already approximately, we don't use that. So a couple of days ago means about 2 days ago, several years ago, before I started my high school. These are all not fixed time, so we don't need to use about. So in the drill, I say this, there's a gap, and you say the whole phrase. I think it must have been about. Then I will say it and you check your answer. So number one, about 10 years ago. I think it must have been about 10 years ago. Remember, we're trying to make sure every word is clear and that you can say it very easily. Not rushed, but clear. About 6 months ago. I think it must have been about 6 months ago. About 3 weeks ago. Number three. I think it must have been about 3 weeks ago. Number four. About half an hour ago. I think it must have been about half an hour ago. A couple of days ago. Number five. I think it must have been a couple of days ago. Number six. Several years ago. I think it must have been several years ago. Number seven. Before I started my high school. I think it must have been before I started my high school. So we can say it, or it must have been, or we can say the last time, meaning the most recent time. That's another way we can use it. So, for example, you might say, I'm just looking at questions here. Have you ever lost your sunglasses? Um, Actually, I have several times. I think the last time must have been about 2 years ago. Um, can you make cakes? Can you make cakes? Actually, I can, but not very well, and I don't. like doing it very much. I think the last time must have been about about 10 years ago, actually. So we can use this structure for many different types of things where we're asked, it doesn't have to be asking when, but you can see you can use it in answer to a lot of different questions. So think about that and make sure you can say that nice and easily. But we'll stop there.